I still remember the exact moment I realized my family saw me as nothing more than a checkbook with legs. It was my brother Marcus's wedding day, and I was standing in the grand ballroom of the Highland Estate, watching servers rush past me with trays of champagne while I tried not to let the kitchen door hit me in the back. Again, let me back up. Marcus and I weren't always close, but we weren't distant either. We were brothers in that comfortable, unspoken way where you assume the other person has your back, because that's just what family does. When he called me 6 months before his wedding, voice shaking with excitement, telling me he'd proposed to Jennifer, I was genuinely happy for him. They'd been together 3 years, and she seemed nice enough, though I'd only met her a handful of times at family dinners, where she spent most of the time on her phone or whispering to Marcus. The first red flag should have been when he asked me to lunch 2 weeks after the engagement. We met at a steakhouse downtown, and after some awkward small talk about work and sports, he got to the point. Jennifer had dreams of a fairy tale wedding, he explained, but between student loans and the down payment they'd just made on a condo, they were stretched thin. He wondered if I might consider helping out financially. Not a loan, he clarified quickly, but maybe a gift to help them start their life together. I'd done well for myself. After college, I'd started a software consulting business that took off beyond my wildest expectations. I wasn't wealthy by Silicon Valley standards, but I was comfortable, and I'd always believed in helping family. I told Marcus I'd think about it, and after talking it over with my girlfriend Sarah, I decided to contribute $20,000 to their wedding fund. It was a significant amount, but I wanted to see my little brother happy. Marcus nearly cried when I handed him the check. He hugged me tight and promised this would make all the difference, that Jennifer would be so grateful, that this meant everything to them. I felt good about it. I felt like a good brother. The months leading up to the wedding were busy. I barely heard from Marcus except for the occasional text. When the invitation arrived, embossed and elegant, I noticed I wasn't in the wedding party. That stung a little, since Marcus was one of Jennifer's brother's groomsmen, but I brushed it off. Not everyone does the traditional thing. Sarah assured me I was overthinking it. The real shock came 3 days before the wedding, when I received an email with the seating chart attached. Jennifer's assistant had apparently sent it to all guests by mistake. And there it was in black and white. Table 18, directly beside the kitchen entrance, as far from the head table as physically possible while still being in the same room. I was seated with Jennifer's great-aunt, who had dementia, a +1 who'd canceled, and 2 children under 5 whose parents were at different tables. I called Marcus immediately. He didn't answer. I texted, "Nothing." Finally, Jennifer replied to my text with a breezy message, saying the seating arrangements were strategic, and she hoped I'd understand they had to accommodate a lot of people. When I pointed out that I'd contributed $20,000 to make this wedding possible, she read the message but didn't respond. Something cold settled in my chest. Sarah thought I should talk to them in person, but I already knew what had happened. I'd been useful, and now I was being tucked away where I wouldn't interfere with the aesthetic of Jennifer's perfect day. I wasn't family in that moment. I was an inconvenience who'd already served his purpose. The wedding day arrived. I put on my best suit, helped Sarah into her dress, and we drove to the Highland Estate trying to maintain positive attitudes. Maybe the table wouldn't be that bad. Maybe I was overreacting. But the moment we walked into that ballroom, my heart sank. Table 18 was worse than I'd imagined. Every time the kitchen doors swung open, a blast of heat and the sound of clanging dishes erupted. The children at my table were already crying, and the great-aunt kept asking me if I was her nephew, Robert, who died in 1987. I watched Marcus and Jennifer greet guests at tables near the front. I watched them laugh and take photos with friends and extended family. Not once did they glance toward the back corner, where I sat being periodically smacked by servers, rushing through with food. Sarah squeezed my hand under the table, and I saw the anger in her eyes that she was trying to hide for my sake. That's when something in me snapped. Not with rage, but with clarity. I'd spent my whole life being the responsible one, the successful one. the one who helped out when family needed it. And in return, I'd been reduced to a transaction. Pay up and shut up. Sit in the corner and be grateful you're invited at all. I stood up. Sarah looked at me questioningly, and I leaned down to whisper that I needed to do something and I'd be right back. I made my way through the ballroom to where Marcus was standing with Jennifer, both of them glowing and perfect. When Marcus saw me approaching, his smile faltered. I kept my voice quiet, but firm. I told him I was leaving and why. His face went red, and he started to stammer something about how I was making a scene, how this was their day. How could I be so selfish? Jennifer's expression was ice. She said I was being dramatic, that I should be honored to be included at all. That's when I told them about the check, the $20,000 check that had paid for the flowers, currently decorating every table, the premium bar package everyone was enjoying, and probably the designer dress Jennifer was wearing. I told them I was stopping payment on it first thing Monday morning, and they could figure out how to cover the shortfall on their own. The color drained from both their faces. Marcus grabbed my arm, suddenly desperate, saying I couldn't do this, that vendors had already been paid, that it would ruin them financially. I gently removed his hand and said he should have thought about that before seating me by the kitchen doors, like I was an embarrassing obligation instead of the brother who'd made his dream wedding possible. I walked back to Sarah, offered her my arm, and we left. I didn't look back at the ballroom, full of people who probably didn't even notice. We were gone. In the car, Sarah was quiet for a long time before she said, "I'm proud of you." That's when I started to cry, not from anger, but from the grief of realizing that family doesn't always mean what you think it means. I did stop payment on the check. Marcus called 47 times that weekend. My mother called, furious, saying I'd humiliated the family. My father said I was being vindictive, but not one of them acknowledged why I'd done it. Not one of them said I deserved better. It's been 2 years now. Marcus and I don't speak. Jennifer's perfect wedding became a story about family drama instead of romantic celebration. I heard they had to take out a loan to cover the vendor costs. My parents still think I overreacted, but Sarah, who became my wife last year at our small, intimate ceremony where every single person mattered to us, tells me I finally stood up for myself. Sometimes respect costs $20,000. And sometimes knowing your worth is priceless. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from those we love most. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. My brother chose to treat me like a transaction rather than family, and that wedding taught me that self-respect isn't negotiable. 2 years later, I have no regrets. I lost a brother who never truly valued me, but I gained something far more precious, the knowledge that I deserve to be treated with dignity. Always. True family doesn't seat you by the kitchen doors.